Hey guys, and welcome back to the next chapter in our Super Smash Bros. Coding tutorial. If you're just joining us, you should probably skip back to part 1, which you can find linked up above. Remember to subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments. Here's Ben with your tutorial.
So for our hit over here, before we actually code our hitting animation and stuff here, we quickly have this bit over here. Whenever we receive player 1 hit player 2 or player 2 hit player 1, so whenever one of the other sprites knows that they hit us, because remember they also have all of this code too, whenever we know they hit us, they're going to tell us and they're going to broadcast it, and so long as we're the other player, so long as we're player 1, when player 2 hit player 1, then we're going to broadcast, or then we're going to use our thing over here, and we're going to hit, and we're going to send it player 1's health. So now we have this big guy over here. So whenever we're hit, whenever Link is hit, we're going to start sound damage, we're going to stop all the other scripts, and then we're going to quickly check if our health is at 150. So if our health is at 150 and we're player 1, or if we're player 2 and player 2's health is at 150, then we're automatically going to die. So that's a block over here, but you guys don't have to worry about that now. We're going to cover that in our next episode probably, so don't worry about this. Just know here, life lost means we die, means we lose a life. So long as we're not at 150, we can run all of this bit of code here. So if we're player 1, and then we have if we're player 2, so this is for player 1, and then all that's for player 2, but they're pretty much the same thing, just opposite like usual. So let's just cover player 1 first. So if we're player 1 and we're hit, we're going to increase our health by 10, because remember Smash Bros works oppositely, so our health is actually going to increase each time. And then if our health is over 50, we actually want to go flying back whenever we're hit. So in order to do the flying back animation, we're actually using the same thing for jumping. So it's actually the same thing as a jump. We're just being hit and we have a little different animation. So we're going to switch to Link hit. We also want to fly back in the same direction as we were smacked. So let's say we were smacked, we're here, and we were smacked this way. We want to go flying this way. We don't want to go and then go off that way. It'd be kind of weird. So to do this, we're going to jump/throw to X position. And then we have health. We have our health variable in here, which is our current health. So if our health is increasing, we actually want to go further and further away. So let's say our health is at 50. We're going to grab 50 times 2 plus our current X position. But let's say our health was at 100. 100 times 2 is 200. And then we add it to our X position. So in other words, the greater the health, the more and the further we're sent back. We're going to set our Y to -25. The height is going to be just our health. Time equals 1, and then if hit equals 1. This is very similar to our animate thing. 1 means that we've been hit. If this was a 0, it means we're jumping pretty much. So we're using the same block to do multiple things. That's why we have this guy over here. And then last thing over here, this guy here, instead of adding our X position, we're subtracting it because we're going the other way. And then last thing, we're going to switch to hit 2 and wait a little delay here. Whoops, that will be the wrong button. There we go. So now we're going to zoom out, put this guy in here. Remember, it's the exact opposite for player 2. So I'll give you guys a quick look. Remember, it's player 2's health. But apart from that, it's all very, very similar. Just make sure you change the direction around. So that guy's here. And then eventually when we get to the ground after being hit, or let's say our health wasn't at 50 and it was only at 20, we're going to run a little bit of code over here. We're going to switch to hit 1. We're going to wait a little bit. Then we're going to go back to standing. And here, this is a little precaution, this little block over here, just in case something weird happens, like you're hit while in midair or something like that, it's always going to return back to Y -25. -25. So it's always going to make sure we go back here. That way one character doesn't end up like way high while the other is down here. Because you can't really fight while this is happening, okay? So that bit there, we go back to Link. And then we're going to rebroadcast start. So we stopped everything right at the top over here. We stopped all of the scripts. So now we can broadcast start again. And then we can go back and do all of this code again. Okay, so for the jumping/throwing stuff, it's pretty easy. Most of it's kind of complicated math that you guys don't really have to worry about. For now, I'm just going to take this off here. We're not going to worry about this. For now, we're just going to cover this and then we'll implement this part here is if we want to jump more than once. And that goes along with that stuff over there. So pretty easy. We're going to grab the block here, define jump/throw. We have our X value, Y value, how high we want to go, the time, and then the hit or not variable, which we're going to use right here. If it hit or not equals 0 when we plug it in over here. So let's say we use it, jump here. If it equals 0 like this, whenever we're doing our up arrow, for example, then we know that we're purposely jumping, so it's 0, and then we can switch to our jumping costumes. If not, and it's equal to a 1, for example, then we know that we've been hit, so we don't want to switch the costume. Then we're going to wait 0.0 seconds, and then we're going to set or reset a bunch of variables. You don't really have to worry about any of these variables. One thing you do have to worry about is jumps. So that's a variable here. This is going to tell us how many jumps we're allowed. So we're going to use this a little later on, and it's going to become more apparent. This is how many jumps you're allowed before you have to go and touch the ground. So, for example, Kirby might have 10 jumps, whereas Link might only have 3. Something like that. Okay, then we have another loop here. This here is maybe die, I called it. So it's pretty much up to chance whether or not you die, and as your health increases higher and higher and higher, you have a more likely chance of dying. So we do this using player 1 or player 2's health, depending on which player you are. And as your thing gets higher and higher, let's say it's 100, it's going to pick a random number between 1 and 100 here. And then if we go down to the bottom, if that number is less than 40, then you will die here. So that's a little code at the bottom we have here. So it's better if your health is a lot lower. So if your health is only 10, it would pick a random number from 1 all the way up to 190. So you definitely have a better chance the lower your health is. So that's what that guy does over here. And then we have this guy over here. So this is our main jump or throw, whatever. Don't really worry about this. Don't really worry about this either. This is just to do with the jumping stuff. In fact, I don't even really understand some of this. This is actually from Mr. Tomac's toolkit, which was a lesson or a thing we did a little while back. So more stuff here. Don't really worry about this. This is setting our X values to a bunch of weird stuff over here. It's using something called a parabola and more complex formulas and stuff that we don't have to worry about. And then the last one over here, after it's doing all of its jumping animations, and this is of course looping in, we're going to switch to our other costume. So Link jump here is almost like a crouch position, and then we're going to jump up on this guy here. And then this guy I already kind of showed you. We're checking. We're only going to die if we touch the edge. This is just a little design thing I decided to add. And we can also only die if our health is greater than 60. So if our health is greater than 60, then it is possible for us to die. If not, then none of this code will ever work, and it'll just keep going on and on. So that's here. So if we're player 1 and player 1's health is greater than 60, or player 2, blah, 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 and touching the edge. So that's that bit there. Seems pretty easy, except we do have one more bit to add over here. So this part here is when we're jumping again. All of this code here. So we're going to take this guy over here. I'm actually just going to I'll explain it first and then I'll put it in there. So this guy here, this is going to constantly be run every single time we're doing our loop and as we're going through our jump. So we're going to see if the W key or the up arrow key is pressed, and we're also making sure hit or not equals 0. So if it is if W key is pressed and we're player 1, or if we're player 2 and up arrow key is pressed, and this jump variable here, jumps has to be less than 2, so it's only going to allow us to have 2 extra jumps, whereas Kirby, for example, this might be 12, so it'll allow us 12 more jumps. So here, then we're going to switch to another costume, so another little crouching costume, and that's kind of us in midair crouching and then taking another jump. We're going to broadcast jump again, which we're going to use a little bit over here. We're going to wait, and then we're actually going to reset all of our variables. So we're going to reset our toss X, our toss Y, our toss progress, and we're going to increase jumps by 1. That way, if we go to jump again, this guy won't let us eventually. So that's going to reset all of our variables. So whenever we do end up jumping, it's just going to go, and it's going to reset, we're going to jump again, and then we're going to go all the way down, which I will show you guys in 2 seconds. Now, there is one other thing you are able to do, and that's jumping to the side. So if we're jumping to the side, we don't just want to do a double jump straight up. There's this guy here. So as you can see, we broadcast jump again here. And all this does is it actually changes X plus, which is a little variable I added in over here. So X plus is, here it is, X plus. So we're adding this variable in, and what this does is it just increases our X value. So here, if we're player 1, and if D is pressed while we've pressed our jump again, so if we're jumping again and we've also decided to click sideways, then it's going to increase our X value. Same if it was A, it would increase it by -70 this time, and same if we were right or left, things like that. So that's what that guy does over here, and then all this guy does over here is actually just play our sound. It starts sound jump if we're player 2, and blah 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 blah. This is pretty easy. You guys should understand that. So I think we're almost done here. We're going to put this guy over here and there. So we have all this code here. Let me show you how it works. So we're going to be here. We're here. So that's our little jumping animation there. like that. And we want to double jump. That's here. And we can do 3 times, whatever, something like that. You have to be pretty quick with it. And then if we wanted to jump to the side, we'd go here, and then we'd also click our arrows, our arrow keys. I think it's that. So there we go. We actually have Link working now. We can hide all these variables. We're gonna make things much fancier in the next episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna pass it on back to Mr. Tomek. Sweet. So after getting all the jumping and stuff done, there's one more thing we have to do inside Link, and then we're actually gonna do the death effect. And both those things are actually pretty closely related. We're going to go and we're going to make sure we use the life lost custom block down here. So life lost is pretty much going to be a custom block that we do over here that's going to reset a few of our variables, and it's going to get us to go up in the middle and then float down just like the real Smash Bros. So let's do that custom block now. So it's down at the bottom. First we're going to make sure we stop all other scripts in our sprite. Then we're going to use the same loop that we always use. So if we're player 1, then we're going to run this. If we're player 2, then we're going to run this guy over here. So we have our 2 blocks of code here. And then the stop here is just to make sure that we don't keep attacking even if we die. So we have those guys here. Now let's actually move on. I'll show you player 1, and then I'll quickly show you player 2. So we're going to actually set player 1's block to 1 first. Now we do this here because we don't actually want to take any more damage even though we've actually died. So we're going to set our player 1 block to 1 so we don't get hurt even more. And then we're going to reset it back to 0 at the very end. Then we're going to go here. We're going to change player 1 lives by -1. So we're going to subtract our lives. So if our lives are 3 right now, we're going to subtract and we're going to go down to 2. And of course, if our lives are equal to 0, so if we're completely out of lives, then we're going to broadcast game over. Game over is just a broadcast that we're going to use a lot later on when we're doing our game over screen. And a lot of the other sprites use game over to go and hide away. So that's a pretty important broadcast here. Then we're going to wait 0.3 seconds. Now the 0.3 second delay is actually just to make sure that our death effect can quickly pop up and appear. So we have a little delay, so our death effect, which we're going to cover right after this, will quickly pop up and be able to see it. Then we're going to reset our health back to 0. And then we're moving on to this part here. So this is the part where we're dying. There's a little bit delay for the death effect to come. And then this is the part here where we're resetting and we're kind of going back up. And we're going to do a cool little animation. We're going to bring Link all the way up here in the middle, and then he's going to float down. So in order to do this, first we're going to go to -970. So it's going to bring us all the way up here like this. We're going to make sure we're in Link's stand, so we're actually standing. We're not in some weird costume or anything like that. And then we're going to change the brightness effect by 25. So what this does here, if I click on it, that's going to make us like glowing like this. This is going to be helpful. It's kind of like the real Smash Bros. They kind of go in like this brighter color, or there's a little pad underneath. But we're not using that. We're just going to make it nice and bright. Then he's going to fall down. And the second he's no longer bright means we can start attacking him again. So we're going to change the brightness effect by 25. We're going to wait 2 seconds up at the top like that. And then we're slowly going to glide all the way down. So that's going to get us back at -25. We're going to be down on the bottom, and then we can start fighting again. We got to make sure we broadcast start though, so we can actually start fighting. We're going to set block player 1 back to 0, so we can actually be attacked now, and then change the brightness effect back by -25. So you see here, back to normal. So let's actually see what this all does. Let's connect it all up. We're going to go back there, and we're going to run it here. So we die. A death effect there, and then we slowly go down like that. I'll show you guys quickly on the big screen. Here, die, and then we slowly fall down, and then we're back to normal. Now as you can see, the death effect is actually working, and that's what we're going to cover just in 2 seconds. So now let's put all these guys in here. Now as for player 2, it's actually just block player 2, lives player 2. We're checking for player 2's lives, player 2's health. Almost the exact same thing, same coordinates, just we're using player 2 instead. So this guy can go in here, and we can grab this guy and put him in there. We're gonna just reset it over there. Perfect. So now that we have life lost done, we can actually move on to the death effect now. Okay, so for the last part that we have to do, we're gonna go over to our death effect, and we're actually gonna code some of this. So first off, we're gonna grab when green flag is clicked. We're gonna delete all of our characters. So we're not deleting all our characters. That's a list I've created. So if I go down to my variables, so I have characters here. So this is going to be a list, and it's pretty much just going to have all of our characters' names. So we're going to make sure we hide our death effect, and then we're going to add in Link, we're going to add Kirby, Pikachu, Bowser, and Mario. make sure you actually spell it the exact same name as you spell your sprite. So if I did link, let's say I spelt it really wrong, if I did, I don't know, whatever, this would not work. It has to be the exact same as however I named my sprites down here. So we're going to reset it back to link, like this. So we're going to add all of our characters in here to our list. I'll show you why we're going to do that in just a second. But one other quick thing we're going to add is whenever we receive game over, we're going to wait 4 seconds, and then we're going to stop all of our other scripts in our sprite. So we're waiting 4 seconds pretty much just to flash our death effect, and then we're going to stop everything else. That means we're done. And of course, game over means our lives equals 0. Now we have the bulk of our actual code. Now there's actually, again, exact same as we usually do. We actually have 2 different portions. We have our player 1 and then our player 2. For now, we're just going to code our player 1, and then player 2 is pretty easy. So before we actually code the main bit down here, we're going to make sure we go to our front layer. That way we can actually see our death effect. We're going to set our size to 40%. And then we're going to use like a temporary variable. So this temporary variable called life1, I'll actually show it so that when we're doing it here, life1 here. And then we're also going to show our lives too. So all over the place, like so. Like that. So we have our lives, and then we also have player 2 lives down here, which is -5 for some reason. That doesn't matter. We'll reset that later. So we have life 1, and then we have life 2. So this is like a temporary variable, and we're going to set it right now to the current lives we have. So let's just do player 1 for now. Life 1 is going to be set to player 1 lives. So as you can see here, player 1 lives equals 2, and we're going to set our death effect, our life 1 here, these are private variables, to 2. So we have a 2 here and 2 here. And then whatever we're going to do, we're going to go here down in a forever loop, and we're constantly going to detect whether or not it's changing. So we're going to see if our temporary variable is still equal to current lives. So let's say we start at 3. So we're going to go here, we're just going to reset, we're going to set that to 3. So here, like that. So we're currently setting life 1 to 3, and then we're also going to set our player 1 lives over here. We're going to set player 1 lives to 3. Okay, so here we can stop that now. So we have 3 lives right now. We're constantly always going to check whether or not it changes. So let's say we die. So let's say now we're going to go to 2 lives. And this changes here. Boom. So now our actual lives is equal to 2. However, our current variable, our other variable up here, is equal to 3. And we're always going to detect. And if we detect that, if we see, oh, life 1 is no longer equal to player 1 lives, which means that we've died, then we know that we have died, so then we can run all of our stuff in here. Okay, so that's pretty easy like this. What are we actually going to be running? We can take that away for now. We're going to hear, once we've detected, we're going to play our death effect sound, so that's just the sound I have in here. We're going to make sure we show so we can actually see it. We're going to point in the direction that we've been hit, so player 2's direction. So if we're going this way, and our Kirby is like here, I'll quickly play it, our Kirby goes here and attacks. We want our death effect to be pointing in that direction. And then we're going to use our list that we just talked about. So for now, I'm just going to quickly grab this and explain this big chunk of code over here. So there's definitely more elegant ways to do this. I'm pretty sure like we could use the list to record our X and Y location and do things like that. But for me, the way I decided to do it when I was messing around with the lists is just to use this block over here. So we're going to go to X position of item 1 player select of characters. So our player select, if you guys, we haven't really done it actually before. That's when we do our menu screen over here. But we talked about it briefly in our first episode. Our player 1 select is either going to be 1, 2, 3, or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to correspond to Link, Kirby, Pikachu, Bowser, Mario. Just like that. We're going to go to that number of our list. So if we go to our list over here, remember Link is 1, Kirby's 2, Pikachu's 3, Bowser 4, Mario 5. In that exact order, we're going to go to whatever person it is. So let's say it was player 1, we're going to go here to Link like this. Let's say it was player 4, we're going to go to our 4th thing, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to be Bowser. So that's the way I'm using the list here, and then it's going to go to the X position of that character. And it's the exact same for the Y position. So I'm going to put that guy in there. And then the last little bit here is we're going to reset our life 1 to player 1 lives. So if we were at 3 and 2, we're going to reset both of them back to 2. 2 over there, okay? Then we're going to wait 0.2 seconds so we can actually see our death effect, and then we're going to hide, and then we're going to go back in our loop. Both of these are going to be 2, and then we're going to loop it and loop it and loop it. Okay, so let's go out here, like so. This is the exact same, except we're using player 2's lives and player 1 direction, player 2, but we're using the same list because we have the same characters. So we're going to put this guy in here. Now let's actually run our code. So let's go big screen here, like this. So right now we have 2 lives. I'll be back right with you when Link is about to die. Okay, Link's almost dead. So we go here, he's at 70 health. Smack him around a little bit. Hopefully he's not immortal. Come on, I need you to die. Almost. Come on, Link, die. There we go. So, as you can see, our death effect briefly went to that location, so that being Link, it showed, and then quickly disappeared. We saw it for a brief second, and now our lives are both back at 1. So, we have our death effect working. It's also going to work for player 2 like that. Now that that's working, that's going to be the end of our part 2 of the tutorial. In the next one, we're going to get our Kirby working. We're going to get Pikachu, Bowser. We're going to get all of our characters. It's really, really easy. And then we're probably going to start in our menu screen too. Okay? Sweet.
Well, that's it for this chapter. We'll be back next week with the next steps in this project. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please drop us a comment and especially send some love to Ben, who wrote this amazing game and filmed the tutorial. Make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing Scratch content. We'll see you next time.